Andrew Mclaren.
Overnight on 3AW, one of my very favourite times of the week when we get to speak media, talk media, that's better, with Nick Hayes. Good morning, Nick.
Mr Mclaren, what a treat it is to be talking to you. But I've got to ask you a quick question before we get started.
Always come to me with your problems. Remember how I helped you with the blackheads. No, you haven't got them anymore, have you?
No, oh, you've got me there. Question. It's non-ratings time. Everyone else seems to be having a holiday. Why are you not having a holiday right now?
Because I give for Fairfax Media.
You do. You are a soldier of Fairfax.
That's right. I'm a centurion at Fairfax Media.
You are a gladiator of the Fairfax.
Thank you. Gladiator was what I was really searching for. I go out there with me net and me sword every day and me little sandals, and away I go.
Well, you keep doing that because you're doing a good fight. You're fighting the good fight. And we appreciate it.
And one day I'm going to get it right. Don't you worry about that, Hayes. Now, we better get to Matters Media.
Oh, look, let's talk Matters Media. And actually trying to get on a bit of a serious note here right now.
Yes, I know, because you want to talk about Peter Greste and this very sad case in Egypt.
Peter Greste, and this story broke around 8-9 days ago, and I was going to cover it in our last media chat, but I was really probably just getting my head around it a little bit more, because the reality is not many of us would have known who Peter Greste was 9, 10, 15 days ago. We would have just thought, well, Peter Greste, it sounds like a journalist who might have been working for another organisation doing some things, but we've all of a sudden been thrown his name and who he is and what he's about. Peter Greste is a journalist for the Arabic news network Al Jazeera, a very reputable news service, one that has been under the spotlight in past times because the United States was almost referring to it as a terrorism network. But in actual fact, Al Jazeera is no different to that of Channel 9, Channel 7, whatever you'd like. It's just situated there in that region and is doing a job that is reporting the news. And I suppose that the outrage, and there is a lot of outrage that is going on around the country at the moment. Journalists are all united. Media is very much all united, as is, I think, a lot of the Australian people are united around this man because they want to see him out. He has been convicted of no crime at all, and he is being held by a country that is a new government and really has more an issue with Peter's employer, Al Jazeera, than they have with Peter. Peter has done nothing wrong. There was no evidence to suggest that he has done anything wrong, and yet he has been put in prison for 7 years. And we've got to get him free.
Now, this worries me a little bit because the media, as you know oh so well, and I know so well, tends to have this sort of cycle of stories that they flare up, they bloom, they're on the front page, and then page 3 and page 7, and then they sort of disappear. And that's what I get scared for Peter Greste and his family with this.
Oh, look, I share that same fear with you too, Andrew, but there's one thing about media, and it's a bit like the police. When a police officer goes down, everyone stops everything what they're doing and goes to that police officer's aid. I think this also too happens here with media. When something unfair, unjust happens, particularly if it happens overseas or it's a threat to someone's life, the media have united here and they have got together and they're not going to let this one go. And they've got a very powerful platform to actually go away and keep this going. And only today there was the council of the Egyptian council was briefing a lot of media and has acknowledged the outrage and the outcry from Australia with regards to Peter Greste. That is one process. That's one step. What I fear, it's not so much whether we're going to see us drop off our attention to this case. It's more, what I fear more is that this government is going to be so inflexible in Egypt that it won't be able to intervene or have anything to do with the judicial process that is over there, because they are actually more in fear of their own people with regards to the Muslim Brotherhood, the fact that a lot of the people there are actually could go either way. And look, it has been unstable there in Egypt for a long time, and they don't want to see or continue to see the riots and the deaths that are going on just for people to get some form of freedom.
Yes.
I mean, Andrew, I was there only, 6 years ago. It's one of the most beautiful countries I have ever visited. I love the place. I adore the place. I love the history of Egypt. But it's the Egyptian people I'm now also too concerned about, because they rely so heavily on tourism. And while this is going on, it's not just Australia that is outraged by this, because there's journalists from all over the country that have worked for Al Jazeera, have been imprisoned for 7 years, and all because the government of the day in Egypt has a bit of a bugbear with Al Jazeera.
Yes, I know.
And that is, to me, is wrong, and we've got to do something about it. So thanks for giving me this opportunity to air this tonight, because it's something that I'm quite passionate about as well. If a journalist or anyone in media is not able to go away and report the truth, or is being held back, imprisoned, or had their life put at risk, then that is, to me, one of the biggest crimes that you can have, because the truth needs to be reported.
Well said, Nick, well said. Now, to matters more local, and the BRW Rich List is out again, and there's quite a few media names, there's particularly 3 big media names on that list. No shocks, I suppose, really.
There's no shock, but I mean, look, the BRW Richest 200 is a classic list. I'd love to be in there, Andrew, one day. I'd love to be.
Wouldn't it be glorious?
I'm surprised. I was going through the 200. I was looking for Andrew Mclaren. Couldn't find him.
No, I'm too discreet for that.
You're too discreet.
I know. They contact me every year and I say, no, absolutely not, mate.
Well, to be in that top 200, you probably you just need around 700 or 800 million just to even be in the bottom part of the 200. So it's a list you've got to work hard to get into. But I thought it would be interesting just to have a look at a few of the media owners that actually are within the top 200. As it sort of gives us a little bit of an impression or a little bit of a feel as to sort of how media is travelling in this country. Now, Kerry Stokes, the owner of Channel 7, the owner of the West Australian and a few other media businesses around the country, he's just got a small little token $2.2 billion sitting in the bank account, but he's had $250 million of it wiped off since last year. So, you know, I'm no bank or accountant or financial guy, but the loss of $250 million to me might suggest that it's not all rosy down there at Camp 7. And
Maybe
it
not,
might
no.
be that there's probably been a few issues that have seen his personal wealth drop off a little bit. But look, Channel 7 is doing well. There's no denying that. Channel 7 still has most of the leading programs and is still doing extremely well. But it's also, too, just the nature of advertising at the moment is having its peaks and troughs. And just a little bit of a glitch can cause a $250 million loss.
Yes. Well, yes, out of a couple of billion, I suppose you still have a fair bit over. This, I suppose the least familiar name to me would be number 2 from the media BRW Rich List, and that's Bruce Gordon.
Bruce Gordon, major shareholder of Channel 10.
Oh, is that where it is? Okay.
You and I have spoken about Channel 10 probably over the last 2 years. They almost get a mention every third week.
True.
They're putting some sort of shameful or disgraceful...
That's right. Rubbishy program on.
That's right. I want to marry Harry. Seriously, is that still going? Anyway, but look, Bruce is he's a major shareholder in Channel 10. He also has his fingers in a lot of pies in the radio stations around the country. Look, he is still doing all right. His fortune is still sitting at around 1.09 billion, but it has dropped from 1.39 billion and has placed him 34th on the list, and he's dropped 9 places. So that, to me, Channel 10 has probably hurt a little bit. A few of the other radio stations that he owns or has an involvement with has probably propped him up a little bit, but it does. Channel 10 has had its issues and problems. But, Andrew, I'm going to put a prediction out there. I think Channel 10's on the way back. I don't think they can get much lower than they've already got right now, and I think they're on their way back up.
Be interesting to see by the end of the year how they rate. Now, Reg Grundy, although he's claimed on the BRW Australian Rich List, but I mean, how long is Reg really an Australian anymore? It's a long time since he's been domiciled here.
I remember, you know what I remember? When you go to the Gold Coast and you used to go to Grundy's,
That's right, yes.
Be very big, and back in the days, I mean, he brought to us, I think, originally Neighbours and all those shows like that. Look,
and quiz shows back in the 60s and 70s.
Quiz shows, he was big on that front. I agree. We very rarely hear or see of him, but even his little fortune there has dropped off a little bit. Look, he is 57. He's down from 53. And his bank account's been suggested around $766 million. And Harold Mitchell, who we all know is the man that places a lot of our ads and is sort of that guy that you all go to have a chat about advertising, his personal wealth, he's dropped, he's at 126, and he's sitting at 375 million. But he's had a good year. He's up 5 million from last year. So somewhere along the line, he's been able to make a few dollars, and he must have been out selling a few newspapers or selling orange juice on the corner.
That's right. Just to explain to people, Harold, although he's not really a well-known name outside the media, he buys a lot of advertising on behalf of clients and sells it to the media in great chunks, doesn't he?
He does. He's sort of that guy that buys it in bulk and then goes away and sells it at premium rates. And he does a really good job. He knows his market. He knows who he's talking to. And look, anyone who is a client of his has always done fairly well.
That's right. Well, interesting. Now to sport. And what's big news, of course, in the media in sport is Todd Carney and his latest shenanigans, which have really cost him dearly.
$650,000 exactly how much it's cost. We can actually put a dollar value on that, because that was the size of his contract that he was getting on an annual basis there with Cronulla Sharks. I mean, if you're sitting back here now listening to the radio, look, the words I'm about to use, they're the most vile things. I won't actually use them, Andrew, to describe what actually happened, but you only have to look up on Google and put Todd Carney's name in to find out what was done. It was all there, yes. It is all there. A photo was taken of him in the urinal of a nightclub in Cronulla, and, I don't have to say any more. It is just vile, and quite frankly, you wonder why, Andrew. You know, we've talked about in the Times a lot of social media faux pas that sports people have done, and we looked at the Australian cricketers, we've looked at all sorts of people there that have put things out there or have got themselves in a little bit of trouble, and it's gone viral through social media. We're all social journalists, each and every one of us. If you've got a smartphone in your hand, you are a social journalist. And can make good money selling it off to the traditional media, that photo you take or vision you take. Well, that photo that was taken, even the story behind it, the way that it got out was absolutely ridiculous as well. But look, you know, this guy this is not just his first time, it's not his second time. No, it's about his fifth club. Oh, yeah, I know. He really has had a very checkered career, yes. Very checkered career, very good player. I mean, the Cronulla Sharks are not exactly having a great year, but when he's on the field, the Cronulla Sharks have got a chance to win. But that kind of behaviour is not warranted. And I've been looking at it. The NRL is about 7 years behind where the AFL is right now. The AFL had issues similar to this 7 years ago, but they did something about it. And you've got to say hats off to Andrew Demetriou and the AFL and the way that they dealt with it back then 7 years ago, because they saw that young men earning vast amounts of money and not always responsible or not able to deal with this, and particularly when alcohol's involved, these guys, and it still happens, we still see it. I mean, Melbourne media loves an AFL outcry or outrage of a player staying out beyond 2 o'clock and maybe have had 3 beers. You know, if that's the worst thing that they're doing, you could probably give them a little bit of relax time. But this guy, seriously, he just did not. He has not actually got got it in the mind or got a brain to realise that every time he's out there, he could be photographed, he could be reported, and for that kind of act, it just puts himself and the whole game in disrepute. It does certainly. The AFL has done a great job around 7 years ago it was, to deal with this, but I think the NRL has a lot more to do. Yeah, they need to institute some sort of coaching service for those young players. I assume, really, Nick, this is really pretty much terminates Carney's rugby league career. Look, I would think it would, but you know what? The NRL, it just doesn't follow traditional means. It seems it has a lot of issues, I believe, especially particularly with players dealing with women. and violence. It's got a bit of an issue with that, and I don't know whether that is the end or not. But you would imagine 3 times being sacked, he's not very employable, and any club that does take him on risks putting the club into disrepute with him just even going out and having a quiet beer.
Yeah, he's been a very foolish young man. Nick, always good to talk, and we will speak again next week on Matters Media.
Good value, good looking forward to it, and you keep fighting on, Mr. Mclaren.
I will. I'm here at the coalface. Don't you worry about that.
You are the gladiator of Fairfax.
Nick Hayes, our media man, and as I say, he returns next week. You are overnight on 3AW.
Hello.